Okay, so let's dive into one of nature's most elegant strategies. Have you ever really thought about a tiny seed? It somehow holds the entire blueprint for a giant tree and its own packed lunch to get started. It's an incredible trick, and it's happening all around us in the world of flowering plants.
So here's the puzzle, right? For a seed to even have a chance, it needs two critical things: that genetic blueprint and enough food to actually start growing. So how do plants manage to create both of these things at the exact same time, without wasting a single bit of energy?
Well, the answer is a process so clever it's considered an evolutionary marvel. It's called double fertilization. And it's pretty much the secret weapon found only in angiosperms, which, is just the scientific name for all the flowering plants out there.
To really get this, we need to think of it as a dual mission strategy. There are two crucial objectives that have to be accomplished at the exact same time. Okay, so mission number one, create the embryo. This is the genetic blueprint, basically all the instructions to build a whole new plant. And happening simultaneously, you've got mission number two, pack its lunchbox. This is the food source, the endosperm, which is a dedicated meal that'll nourish the embryo as it begins its journey.
So how does this whole mission even begin? Well, it all starts with the incredible journey of a single grain of pollen, which is carrying two very, very important travelers inside.
First up, we have touchdown. The pollen grain lands on the flower's sticky stigma. Then, germination kicks in as it grows a long pollen tube. This tube then navigates its way down through the style, almost like it's digging a tunnel, until it finally arrives at its destination, the ovule.
Now, you might be wondering, how does the pollen tube know where to go? It's not just wandering around randomly. Deep inside the ovule, there are these amazing specialized guide cells called synergids. Think of them like a biological GPS. They send out chemical signals that direct the pollen tube's growth, making sure it arrives perfectly at the entrance to the embryo sac.
And this brings us right to the climax of the journey. Inside that embryo sac, our two little travelers are about to fulfill two very different destinies.
Once it gets there, the pollen tube releases its precious cargo, two male gametes. They've arrived, and this right here is where the double in double fertilization really begins. Waiting for them inside the embryo sac are two very specific targets. The first is the female egg cell, and the second is this unique structure right in the center called the diploid secondary nucleus. Each of our two travelers has a very specific assignment.
So let's look at that first assignment, creating the blueprint for a new life.
This first event is called syngamy, and this is the moment we typically think of as fertilization. One of the male gametes fuses with the female egg cell, and boom, their genetic material combines to create a brand new individual.
The result of this is a single cell called a zygote. And because it's formed from two half cells, one from the pollen and one from the egg, it's now what we call diploid, or 2N, meaning it has a full set of chromosomes. This zygote is our blueprint. It holds all the information to become the embryo.
But what about that second traveler? Don't forget about him. His mission is just as vital. Now it's time to pack the lunchbox. This second event happening at the same time is called triple fusion. This is where the second male gamete moves to the central cell and fuses with that diploid secondary nucleus. Now think about it for a second. That's one nucleus from the male gamete plus the two that are already in the secondary nucleus. That's why we call it triple fusion. The product of this triple fusion is the primary endosperm nucleus, which is triploid, or 3N. And this unique triploid cell is what will divide and grow into the endosperm, that nutrient-rich tissue that makes up the entire contents of our packed lunchbox. And right here, you can see the genius of the whole system laid out. You have two fusions happening at once. Syngamy creates the diploid zygote, the blueprint for life. At the exact same time, triple fusion creates the triploid endosperm, the packed lunch for that life. It's just perfect.
And this shows their roles so clearly. The zygote grows into the embryo, the actual future plant. Meanwhile, the endosperm develops into the food supply, making sure that embryo has all the energy it needs to get started. Honestly, one can't succeed without the other.
And when you put it all together, the embryo, its personal food supply, and a protective outer coat that comes from the ovule, what do you get? You get something we are all very familiar with, a seed. That tiny package of potential is the direct result of this incredibly elegant two-part process.
So this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. Double fertilization is an incredibly efficient, no-waste system. It makes sure a plant only invests energy in a food supply if an egg has actually been fertilized. So, with such a massive advantage, why is this evolutionary marvel found only in flowering plants? What does that tell us about their unique journey and the strategies of all the other plants in the kingdom?
Subscribe and join our community of science lovers.